Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? We're back for episode 2 of Koi Talk Live. How are you all doing, chaps?
Good.
Really good.
Yeah, good.
How are you?
How's the old weather? I'm good, mate. I'm good. I had a bit of a day off today. Been to barbers, got the mop sorted out.
I'll get them
That's
for
why
you.
I've got a hat on. I haven't got around to it.
Oh god, yeah. I've been putting that one off for a while. It does me head in. But there we go. How's everything with you lot and with your ponds and everything?
Yeah, new pond syndrome for me, mate. It's absolutely smashing. I need to get the water clear, man, but I've just got to let it take the cycle, to be honest. But the fish are doing really well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Need some heat on, Krafty. What kind of temperature you at? Are you heated?
Yeah, 20.
Oh, you're up at 20, so it's come through nice and quick then. Hopefully you get out of it a lot quicker as well.
Yeah, I think so, mate. The fish are thriving, mate. Every time they see me, it's just like at the glass, like it's like I didn't buy you to pull faces.
Yeah. Right. What about you, Lee?
Yeah, main pond is touch wood, by accident running perfectly. The grow on the Tozai pond had a few issues when I come back from Japan, lost the heat. The koi was sitting at 9 degrees, and then I had to raise those up. Obviously, that was a stress factor. And lo and behold, a couple of days later, people did tell me not to put one on. Slide valve failed. So that was leaking out, which dropped the level, which again took the heat off. So 2 of the grow on have got a couple of little red patches on them, where they just get a little bit sore looking, but they've had a bit of a treatment and I think they're bouncing back. So let's just hope that keeps running smoothly. Touch wood.
Yeah, nice. And how about you, Joe?
Yeah, my wellies have just about dried off from my little swim earlier this week. So, yeah, that was good fun if nobody has seen that on Koi Wholesale. But I had a dip in one of Ricky's ponds. It's been a bit of a good week, really, to be fair. Covers have been off. Fish are starting to come around. I want to get that heat on now and start, proper getting into season. So, yeah, it's exciting times, really.
Yeah, I can see it's so frustrating relying on the ambient temperatures this time of year. It's driving me mad, as you know full well, Joe, because it's just slowing things down at Koi Wholesale big time at the minute, because we just can't move the fish outside without them kind of rebounding or really, going into a deep sulk, damaging the mucus. It's just... yeah, it's stressful because we need that indoor space to keep bringing new fish in. So
yeah,
there we go. Just one of the challenges, like the breeders face. None of us are any different. Breeders are relying on good temperatures out there, the snow melting in time, it picking up to start releasing their fish. So yeah, it's interesting testing time of year, I think. So, yeah, for everyone watching, welcome once again. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in at the moment. And as I keep harping on, all we would like from you is your support, hitting that like button, hitting share, subscribing to each of our channels, even Joe's. I think you've got a channel. Have you got a channel, Joe?
Yeah, but just... yeah, there might be some dodgy stuff on my likes or something. I hadn't checked it, so nobody find it. But yeah, no, I've got about 3 subscribers. I think one of them's me. So
Brilliant. So this evening we are a few faces short. There we go. Evo in
Hi, Evo.
Living life in
How
Dubai.
good looking is Evo in that picture, though?
Whatsoever. It's
so
I think Evo's hopefully going to be back next week. I believe we're waiting on Mr. Tait actually getting back from work to get logged on, so expect to see him part way through. And Chris is also putting his feet up somewhere as well. So little does he know he's got twice the amount of work to get back to on Monday, because I've done absolutely none of it this week. Ouch. Right, folks, tonight's conversation. So I banded a couple of ideas around, but I'm going to go with one that I think has sort of culturally been building over a period of time now, to the point where this gets banded around a little bit too much, as if it's such a common thing to actually achieve and do in the hobby. So this whole conversation is going to be around jumbo koi, posing it in a few different ways, but primarily looking at around how I believe it's been so common and it's overly used by dealers, hobbyists as well. Buying the fish a couple of £100 and saying, is it going to get jumbo? That is a reality. Krafty, you're going to learn this one more and more over the course of this year, the more time you spend. But yeah, I think it's kind of got out of hand. So the first question I'm going to put to you guys is, what do you consider in 2023 to be a jumbo koi? Joe, we'll start with you.
I think you've got to be saying over 90 centimetres, aren't you, really? Now, I think with the bloodlines and the genetics that are actually making it into hobbyist ponds over here, and filtration setups that everybody's running now, and the feeding regime everybody's got, that you see at national shows and at shows, things regularly hitting over 90 cm. Yeah. So I'd say, yeah, you're probably looking at 90 cm.
Yeah. Lee?
I think there's a few different factors. I think the variety for a start will determine a CM variant of a jumbo, like a Shisui, for instance, might be considered jumbo at a different size to a Gosanki, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Also, after going to Japan, I would consider a jumbo koi in Japan is probably way over 90 cm because they're kind of just growing them regularly. I've seen a pond over there of about 30 or 40 Gosanki that were all over 90 cm. It was insane. And not a mark on a fin, not a blemish. Absolutely looked like they were just being molded the day before and put in there, right?
Yeah.
In this country, I went down to a mate's place for a bit of a koi nerding session this weekend. It was really good. Lee Koi, his name is, on Facebook. He's a well-known hobbyist. Not the best looking guy I've ever seen, but his pond was amazing. Now, he had a load of koi in there from 70, 75 cm Kawakus all the way up to, I'm not sure if there was anything quite a meter there, but 80s and 90s certainly.
Yeah.
And those things, I think if you can grow a koi that size, I think if you can grow a koi to 75 cm in the UK, I personally would class that as a jumbo koi in this country. Maybe not in Japan, but over here, I think I would, depending on the variety, but that's just my opinion.
No, I think you've raised it in quite a good angle there. And what about you, Krafty?
I think that there is a belief and a reality in the UK. So jumbo over here, people constantly are saying, will this get to a meter? Well, you and I both know that, there's very few people in the UK that can get a koi to a meter, and that's even if they breed it and grow it in this country and not buy it big and import it across. Yeah. Jumbo, really, for us, my belief is if you're hitting 80 cm, you have reached a good milestone and can call your fish a jumbo for the UK standard. Personally, what Lee says with regards to variety, I think plays a big point. I think that a lot of people will tend to think that they can get all fish to that sort of size. Yet, when you look at the Deutz variety, for instance, you'd be lucky to hit 70 and keep it in good nick.
Yep.
So I mean, from my opinion, me personally, I would be happy for any of the koi that I raise from Tozai to even get to 80. In fact, 70, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Very, very good point, mate. So, yeah, everyone watching, let us know what you think. Fire it into the comments, your opinion on what you consider to be a jumbo fish. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, both, if we fire this towards Joe and Lee, you've just mentioned it. Obviously, presumably that was Dainichi was talking about.
Sorry, did you just say that?
Presumably that was Dainichi we're talking about, the pond you were describing.
Yeah, Dainichi was amazing, but the actual one that was vividly stuck in my head that I was actually in the moment when I was talking to you about it was in Odakan. Like Odakan in the back room.
Yeah.
Got those long ponds.
Mental.
Mate, so there's probably Sakai in there, Tamira, Danichi, but it's just incredible. Like, and they were just immaculate, like perfect examples of koi, which are probably 5 to 10 years old with not a blemish on them. It's just incredible. I got Tozai in there that's got no pec fins left from feeding. How do they do it? It's like magic.
Yeah. I think the interesting bit I'm going to come back to though is probably is talking about how many fish actually exist in those ponds, because I think this is going to be the important part. For me, I think I always gauge things by the bars being set in Japan, because they ultimately set the benchmarks in everything that we do. And yeah, you're right. 90 cm, unfortunately, isn't seeming like it's going to cut it anymore. That is the crazy world. A meter is becoming the benchmark, and I can see it quickly becoming beyond that as well. There's a Sakai video circulating, which Adam Webber put us onto last night in question time, and I've actually sat and had a watch because I love soaking anything like that up. And some takeaways sort of from that is his ambition, I think, of raising this year's grand champion to like I think he said 1.15 m or 1.1 meter, and re-challenging at that point. And I think he'll do it. Looking at what they're doing and looking at the conformation of that fish as well, it didn't quite look done. And the crazy bit to it as well is that, that's being raised in a 15,000 gallon very high spec system at the minute with 10 fish in it.
Is that the video where he sort of like nets a kawaku in one of his things, and it's like 69 cm, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's Nisai."
Yes.
Is that the video?
Yeah.
I was like that. Yeah. Nisai, 69 cm. I was like that. I watched it last night as well. It blew me away. I was like, that's crazy.
Absolutely wild what they're doing. So yeah, for me, I think ultimately that benchmark, we are talking, as we dial back in the years, we're talking 70, 75 was considered jumbo. Then it was 80, 85. Then it was 90. And now we look at the past two All Japan Grand Champions of being at a meter. So it's, and even though I still consider from what I've seen of them, the runner-up this year be a better fish. And there was a Sankey at 90 boo, I think, which again I consider to be a better fish. That size element, and I think the perspective you'll not get from these jumbo fish as well. This is coming down to the body element of it, because I've seen jumbo done in the UK, and hats off to anybody that raises fish to 90 cm or beyond. The bit I don't see though is the body. I think the way these top Japanese guys are doing it, there's this extra sort of 10% that I keep talking about. That extra 10% in volume through this art of raising makes these fish look plus 5 cm bigger than they actually are. And Joe, you've possibly seen this from your trip, and Lee, obviously, where you've seen it, the body on these things is vast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the actual width and height of the body that you just don't seem to get over here. And I guess that, separating what they do in Japan from what you can achieve over in this country, I think anybody who can raise any fish to 90 cm, but also still have Shiroji, Benny and Sumi all as well as in that quality, and have stretched it out over that size of fish, that's an achievement in itself. And I guess, what they're achieving in Japan is, I think you've got to kind of, I don't know whether or not that can be a ballpark for someone in the UK to try and hit that and keep the quality of a koi there, because the ones that we see over here, I actually think a lot of the fish that have won awards over here at big sizes, the heads, one eye will be outside of its head, and one eye will be inside of its head, and that for me is a huge deformity. But I've seen it win grand champion awards and major awards over here, and the skill they have in Japan is none of them jumbo koi have a big deformity like that either, whereas over here they tend to do.
I like that point that you raised there, actually, with the body, because and like I say, the deformities, because it's hard pushing it. But I think what we say about can we achieve what they're achieving, they're setting the benchmark. You see, when I'm raising fish, there's always a vision in my head. So when I'm looking at the results in front of me, I'm gauging that based on what I've witnessed in Japan, based on what I know a 55 cm Nisai or 60 cm Nisai looks like, not just in length, but in body as well, because that makes a big difference. So we can certainly do it, but I think it's a different take on it. I'm not sure people are necessarily willing to have, if you're even privileged enough to have a 15,000 gallon pond, to stock it with just 10 fish. You know, it's a completely different mindset. But moving away from that bit, so to the bit for me where the sort of concern comes in, that over years of jumbo being hammered into people's heads, it's expectations of people when they're purchasing a new fish at all levels of it actually being able to obtain, for the sake of this conversation, 90 cm. So, and I think it's become an expectation that it gets banded around so commonly, sometimes very misinformed from the people selling the fish, which is where the problem can stem from. When you don't know, and you guys will all tell me more about this because it's something you'll never hear come out of my mouth unless I'm absolutely certain. But if you're buying a fish in good faith and a dealer says to you, don't might matter how it's worded, but they might say it's from a 1 meter parent, this. If when you've just come into the hobby and you hear that, what is then your expectation, knowing that fish has come from a 1 meter parent? So run with that one. We'll start with Lee.
Again, I've never really gone to a shop looking to buy a koi for the growth. I've always gone just to look for the quality of the fish. Yeah. And I think that's a massive factor as well. If you're looking at a tozai pond and you've got a pick of 100 tozai, I can guarantee you most people would pick the one that they like most, which is probably going to be bang in the middle of the pack, which hasn't necessarily got the genetics to grow quicker than its peers, you know? Yeah. So the chances of that one kawaka you're looking at, which is ironically the nicest one, and it's the biggest one, so it's the 4 leader of the growth race, you know, most people wouldn't even go for that one to start with. And then obviously, so everyone's on the back foot anyway, unless you're specifically looking for a fish to grow big and don't matter about the quality of the pattern or the seroji or anything like that. Maybe with a single colored fish, that's different. You know, if you're going to go and buy a chag or a karashi, you're going to go for the body shape and the size over anything else, because there's nothing else to pick the fish from apart from body and size, basically. And it's so simple. So then you might actually have a chance to hit the genetic threshold that the fishes are capable of in the right environments. But as for going to a dealer and then the dealer going, oh, this comes from 2 Saki parents and they're both 100 cm, the realistic thought of sort of it matching it over here is quite unrealistic, isn't it?
Have you been on the receiving end of that, Lee, as a hobbyist? And if you have,
I haven't been fed any false information by your brother. No. You know, I've had fish off in good faith, which, you know, I've passed on to other people. But there was never any, are you promising me this is going to be like 90 cm? You know, I'm not stupid enough to think like that anyway. But I'm sure there is people that genuinely go into a dealership and then go, I want to grow something massive. I've got a liner in my pond with an easy pod. What will get the biggest? Do you know what I mean? I'm sure there's people out there that get misled. You know, I was misled with my filters when I had my first pond, you know, but you know, a lot of people, I think if you go to an established koi dealer, you know, they will guide you in the right way. I think it's just the smaller places that probably will blow smoke up your ass. But then, you know, you've got to have enough common sense to realize what is,
I think so,
you know, possible.
What about you, Krafty? Have you been on the end of this one?
I haven't been on the end of this one. However, I have had conversation with somebody that has been on the receiving end.
Yeah.
And I'll keep names out of it, but from the conversation that I had, there was an expectancy that a select amount of fish that was purchased was purchased with the intention of getting to 1 meter.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit of a conversation where I had to sort of bring reality into check with regards to why he thought that was possible and where that information come from.
Yeah.
And the information that was given was based on parent fish.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay. So off of the back of that, have you actually seen the parent fish, number one? Number two, do you know the genetics that are involved? And do you know the conditions that you need to keep and the schedules that you have to work towards in order to achieve such a milestone in that? And unfortunately for the person I was speaking to, he had absolutely a small amount of idea of what it is with koi, and that was from his own words. It's like, so yes, it happens. Expectancies from people in a shop, though, where, you know, speaking from experiences, that a lot of people that know nothing about koi, just getting into the hobby, etc., they do ask the question, how big do these fish get?
Yeah.
You know, and I listen to other hobbyists talking, and when you get 2 or 3 guys all looking at a pond in amazing at a set of fish that are swimming around, it's really interesting just to like cast an ear and listen to conversation. And the amount of people that state, you know, oh, they quite commonly get to a meter, is quite common, if I'm honest. And when you actually then step in and you end up with an audience of everybody in the shop then starts listening to what you have to say and they get pulled in, you know, to the conversation, people have a better expectation of where they're actually going to go when they've got a 2,000 gallon pond or 500 gallon pond, etc., you know, running off of a small pressure filter. You know, it's and that's something else that I've come across as well, which is people not understanding conditions in order to get fish big. You know, and I quite often get, well, my koi's only got to this size, and when you then ask them how often they feed them, what food they're using, you know, what happens in winter with them, etc., etc., you know, they pretty much, well, they can lay out a stall to the reason why they're not getting any more than 5 centimeters growth in a year, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. So, right, folks, the Emperor has arrived. So we'll bring him on.
Oh,
Mr. Tait, how you doing?
God! He's a good looking fella, isn't he? But not bad for 120.
How you doing, Alan?
I'm fine, apart from the idiots that you already got on here.
So we are going to get to the Star Wars conversation again, folks, because it has developed a little bit more since last week. But Alan, we're just having a nice little chat about jumbo fish, and this particular part is where we're discussing the I won't want to say mis-selling, but probably the misunderstanding when you know, you could be led astray in a dealer's or in a conversation, even by breeders as well, where a breeder will say, you know, this koi's come from a 100 cm parent, and that then naturally implying that offspring has the potential to become 100 cm fish. So, and I'm guessing you possibly get asked this and see this a lot on the circuits that you're in, where I think the whole size thing is massive. But what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I do agree with you, but even a dealer or a breeder telling you they'll grow to a meter in length, it's bollocks. It all depends.
We managed to keep the swearing to a nil factor.
We was all doing so well then, weren't we? Wow.
But everything's depend on the size of your pond, your koi keeping skills, your food ratio to body mass, There's so much more involved than just saying it's a jumbo tow site and it will get to a meter. Never in a million years will it get to a meter without the right conditions.
Yeah. And that's the bit that worries. Like I say, I think it's just been so common to band that phrase around, in particular, like stressing that this fish is from such and such a parent, which is this size, and then leaving it at that. It's not mis-selling, but to me, it certainly implies what could potentially come from it. And there's so much more to it. So as a hobbyist, Joe, relatively new to it all, have you been on the end of this? What's your thoughts around it?
No, to be honest, from the very beginning, like Krafty said, I was the same person who went in and said, "Is my butterfly koi going to get to 80 cm?" I was like,
hang on. Have you got a butterfly koi?
No, I did right at the very beginning. I was the same. I wanted to know how big
He's
things
a
were gonna
liar.
grow.
He's been unpicking the butterflies from my place this week.
No, I was exactly the same. But as soon as I started doing some research, I mean, I know this is going to sound awful, but there's a little bit of like common sense that comes into place. Is if there's a fish, like a small fish that's nice and pretty and it's got good benny and other qualities, it wouldn't have been released from Japan if it's going to grow at 100 centimeters. That's the reality of it, and it's quite a harsh reality. Unless you're talking about a single color Karashi Goi that comes from 120 centimeter parent, maybe that, with a huge backbone, big head, big mouth, you could maybe grow that. But going back a little bit on one of the, that Sakai video you were talking about with 70 centimeter knee sight, he mentions that he feeds bait to his fish, and I typed into Sakai bait, what is it? And they make like a paste ball with herrings and tofu and honey, and make this like paste thing and feed it. And they've got a guy just dedicated to making this paste at the farm. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, I think sometimes you've got to say there's absolutely no chance many people could raise a knee sight at 70 centimeters unless they're spending all day making this bloody paste exactly the same as what
Joe, you've just inspired me for an idea there. How are you fixed, buddy?
Absolutely no chance. Honestly, we need a HR department at Koi Wholesale.
I've got a good link, mate. I'll send it to you later, mate.
We not discuss that? His name's Andrew Stoddart.
He'll look after you.
He's got that bin where he puts all the complaints.
But no, there has to be a little bit of common sense applied, I think. And I think with everything, if you were buying a car, some people are going to try and tell you this used car, it's going to go for 100,000 miles without anything replacing, and you just got to kind of have a bit of common sense, I think.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, it's something I wanted to raise some awareness to, because I know it's stemming from the breeders as well. It's just become so natural for them to paste a picture and go, this parent's 100 cm. And they know what they're doing. They know what it implies. And I just want people to be aware that the complexities of doing it, which is just going to tie into sort of next bit, is so tough. And like you say, even when that raw genetic potential there, the fish is still going to be governed by its own structure. That's first and foremost. If the structure of the fish isn't there, you ain't going to do it. It doesn't matter if there's a meter parent sat behind it. It's not going to deliver on it. And then we have the issue of the environment, the keeping, getting it to that size, and then even getting it to that size and getting the body element to it as well. It's just remarkable. But all that said, and it comes to the next part, it's the percentage then of fish that actually achieve this. That this is the next bit that obviously I think awareness needs to be based around, because I think it's become such common practice for everyone to expect these fish from these jumbo lineages to achieve these sizes. But as Lee will be able to test, at Dainichi, just for example, and these Sakai fish we're talking about, the volumes of fish that actually have to be produced. So, I mean, you'll have seen them two back ponds, Lee, when you visited Dainichi. I reckon there's probably 40 fish between them.
Yeah, not many. They've got plenty of space. Yeah.
If you consider the age of those fish and how many fish will have been produced in that same time period, to have just that collection of 40 fish, at that level and size, it goes to tell you that the honest chance of you as a hobbyist actually ever getting one of the fish with that capability and achieving it through to it becoming that kind of level is just so small.
Yeah. I think it gets back to something like humans as well. I mean, if you look at Joe and Lee, 4'5" each, they've not got potential. They haven't got the body structure to grow big.
It's true. That's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
I've
I
seen
always
my peduncle, mate,
I
and it's
always
like
tell
that.
my missus, I always say, listen, my peduncle might be small, but it smells big.
Honestly.
Oh,
So as long as
fantastic.
my koi smell 90 cm, I'm happy, Alan, if that's all right.
Brilliant. Al, what do you think? The first question we asked was what we believed, or each person's definition of what jumbo means in 2023. So where's your thoughts on that one?
It's not a thing I've thought much about, actually. I can see a difference in size from probably 20 years ago to a size much bigger. And the top end in this country is getting bigger. We can easily achieve 80 plus over here now.
Yeah.
Which in the early days when Peter was bringing fish over, 75 was a GC. Standard GC was a 75 cm fish, which nowadays most hobbyists with the right setup can achieve that quite simply.
I'd agree with that. It's a good point.
So I think there is a change, but not as much as has been sold with the public over here. We can achieve good size, but we'll never achieve what they've got over there. I mean, when we look at that Sakai video, the area of volume of water that those fish were in was just enormous. Unless you've got a lake over here, he ain't got that kind of water volume to get those big sizes.
Mm. And I think the point we sort of mentioned, I think the problem is it's a mentality thing as well, because 15,000 gallon pond, just to be that disciplined to keep 10 fish.
That's right.
That amount of water.
Yeah.
So that's what's needed, because we talk about, and this is the bit I keep coming back to, because I can't stress this enough. It's not just about hitting that, because a fish of a meter will carry a certain amount of body volume.
Yeah.
But it's that I keep saying it, this extra 10% that they can get out of it, which makes it better than that other fish at 98 cm or a meter is where they're really winning. And to do that is where the art of feeding truly comes in. And if we look at the feeding volumes, I don't believe you can do that. Because I mean, I think we've seen a culture in the UK develop of raising jumbo fish in small amounts of water through water manipulation and things like that. And it's been done, it's been achieved. But what I've seen of those fish in body, they don't compare to what I've seen that fish at the same size done in Japan by a top leader. That's where the difference lies for me. And I've said it again, it looks like those fish are plus 5 cm bigger because of that difference in body that they've got. And to put that amount of food into a pond, you've got to be disciplined in keeping the stocking level low and then giving that dedication of all that space and time to just that small handful. Could we do it? Could any of you guys do it? You know, if it meant now reducing your stocking level down to, I mean, if I don't know if we did that proportionally to the water volumes that you guys have got and even that I've got, could you do it? I think in a lot of our cases, it'd be keeping 1 or 2 fish in a pond.
Wouldn't want to do it for that very reason, Rick, to be honest, mate. And the pond's not there to grow massive fish. It's there for enjoyment for me.
Yeah.
You know, and for everybody else in the family, you know. It's if I was running a business and like the Japanese do that, you know, takes massive amount of glory from achieving such levels, then if I had the real estate, then, you know, could I do it? Yeah, potentially. But would I want to? No, I don't think I would, to be honest. I think I'd pull what air I've got left out.
Fair play. What about you, Lee? Because you've got, you know, a nice collection building. You've got a good. How many gallons is your pond now?
5,000 gallon.
Okay, so we'd be talking really keeping a 3 or 4 fish in there.
Yeah, it is something that I'm thinking about doing in the future. So,
okay,
it's going to be a progression for me. I'm enjoying buying fish, trying to source the best quality I can.
Yeah,
leaving them in the pond, a bit of showing, and you don't know what you've got really until it's actually growing. So, and you don't know what quality. Sometimes they turn out for the worst, sometimes they turn out for the best. But all I know is with a lot of fish in my pond, I think I've got about 20 fish in there at the moment. I got a couple to pick up from your brother, and I find it quite stressful when the pond's overcrowded. Do you know what I mean? And I can think in the future, there's going to be a time where I'm going to want to keep my best 4, offload everything else, and just see what I can do with them with my pond setup. So it is going to be a progression that I'm thinking about doing in the next few years. But at the moment, I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing. But I've been talking to Allan about this, and Allan thinks my pond's probably a good substitute to actually get some decent growth on fish. And at the point where they get to the size where the volume is overwhelming the system, then the fish have to decrease, to give everything the chance to bound forward. So, and then that will depend on the quality of the fish in the pond at the time, what I'm going to pick, to do it. So, again, going back to talking about buying a fish that will protect, with the intention of that fish being able to reach jumbo sizes. Well, I'm just seeing what has got the potential that I've got already, and when I find out that everything's leaping forward, I'll keep those fish and offload the rest. You know what I mean? So we'll just see a natural culling process, but giving fish to my friends at the same time. Krafty, sort your water out because I got some fish to get rid of.
What about you, Joe? How many gallons you got?
2,000. So what's that, about one fish?
Pretty much, mate. Let's call it 2. How would that be for you?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it, to be honest. What's he eated through December? 22. I mean, for me, that's just a no-go. Can't afford it. This is already. I'm heated to 12, and we're bringing duvet to sit down on sofa and watch TV. It's freezing in the house.
Pay rise, Joe. If it's not paying you, man, that's bullying.
I need to start rolling some more herrings, I think, and working a bit harder. Yeah, no,
I was waiting for that coming, Krafty.
I mean, there's not many people who heat 22 through winter. I mean, obviously, if you've got you can enclose it properly. Mine, you can't do that. So that's I think that's an heated to 25 through summer as well. Like that, it costs a hell of a lot of money to do that. Even if we have a bad summer, what their heating bill at Sakai, they said 10 million yen a month.
Oh yeah. So
grand.
December, that was I think that we convert that somewhere between 60 and 70 grand. I thought that would
drop in the ocean.
Feel better.
Yeah,
crazy.
It feels like that for me as well.
What about you, Alex? We don't know too much about your pond.
The pond's not very big, actually. The pond's only 3,000 gallon.
Yeah.
The lakes are a bit bigger.
Yeah. Would you be happy with 2 or 3 fish swimming around in your pond?
If I was still in the shore scene, possibly. But because I'm not in the shore scene anymore, there's quite a few fish in there now. There's probably 12 fish in there now.
Yeah.
In the pond. If I was still shoring, that may be different. I might then cut it down to possibly 4 fish. But then I think I would lose the enjoyment of the hobby as well.
Yeah.
And it's also having as hobbyists, we haven't got the time to spend with our fish. Most of we're out most of the day, 8-9 hours a day working, unless you're like Ricky, which is 1 hour a day.
If you're lucky.
Of course, I'm with the fish the other 7, for Christ's sake.
I was being so kind to you as well. So yeah, I think as hobbyists, it is hard for us because most of our work full time.
Yeah.
And Sakai and these guys, Dainichi, the staff they've got all the time in the world. That's all they do. The same as Koi Wholesale. You can see the growth rate you achieve, Ricky. because you've got the manpower with you and you're there seven days a week.
Constant observation is an essential part of it. There's no getting away from that.
Yeah, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day when I retire, I might do something different and I might get back into the show scene.
Fair play. No, I think for me, one of the things when I look at this and I look at what they're doing, it's when we talk about that. So obviously, me coming from it from a commercial aspect, last year was the first time I'd raised any side to Sansai. So that pond that all you guys are seeing down at the end of the fish house, with them beastie fishing, that's the first time. But obviously, even then, I knew to probably achieve what I really wanted to, I needed 10 to 15 fish in there at tops. That's in a 3.5K pond. But I just couldn't do it. By the time it come round to it, I ended up with 22 fish in there. And the results were still pretty staggering, but I know there was probably even a little bit more that could have been eked out. But to raise that many fish, just to keep it so low as 10 or 15, commercially, it just adds so much pressure to those fish. You know, if we get the one fish that doesn't quite develop well, all of a sudden all that extra cost and the loss of that fish is spread amongst all the others. And yeah, for me as well, I'm not going to lie, I don't like seeing a sparse pond. It's just not something I enjoy. I prefer to see them pretty full, but it kind of ties in as well, you know, the art of raising jumbo fish. There's no when the genetics are there and the fish is there, the only other secret part to it really is the feeding. And when people talk about stocking levels, that stocking level is not really ever dictated by the number of fish. It's dictated by the food needed to do what you want to achieve with those fish, and then the system's ability to handle that food. There's no more to it than that. No X amount of fish per kilo, per gallon, or anything like that. That's just all fantasy stuff. It's dictated by the food. But enough of that, folks. I know everybody's itching to see the updated Star Wars characters. Miss Hadfield, I must say you're a very artistic man. I should imagine you've got some very happy clients in that tattoo shop.
Not when I ask him to pay. A good tattoo isn't cheap, and a cheap tattoo isn't good.
I like that one. So I don't quite know who to start with here. So obviously we saw Allan's from last week. There we go, folks.
You didn't have to show it again, though.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, right, let's go with, we'd all love this one. Steve hiding away in the background. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And then we have got, wow, tragic that one. Jesus Christ.
That here suits you, Ricky.
He used to have hair like that.
Your washing machine. You don't have a washing machine. Good.
Absolutely brilliant. And then, my close friend Chewbacca.
I wish I still had that hairline.
I love it, mate. Love it. Absolutely brilliant. This was a good one. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
I made Krafty specifically Allan Tait student.
Nice. Brilliant stuff. And then, yes, Joe.
Absolutely no way I'd fit into that suit. Look at the size of my head. It won't go through the hole.
Oh, super.
A bit of lube won't sort out, Joe.
Love it. And Evo, look at that. That's smooth
amazing.
operator, that one. It actually looks like the original one. Crazy. But the absolute best, and it's a shame he's not here to enjoy this one with us, because this is an absolute crack up if I've ever seen one.
That is my favourite one.
Oh, God.
With a Koi Talk badge on his smock. How cool is that?
Oh, Chris, he's there.
That's going to be a t-shirt, that is, for the Sankey event.
It's got to be, hasn't it? It's got to be. Absolutely amazing. Good stuff, mate. It's always good to have a laugh. So anyway, folks, just while we get over that, feel free, we're moving into that bit now, feel free just to fire in a few questions you'd maybe like us to discuss But other than that, I've just got a couple of bits. Speaking of t-shirts, I've actually received this from a viewer today. So I can get it in right. Followed by
Very good.
love it. Absolutely love it. Appreciate that one. And yeah, actually, a nice little one I found in the office today as well. A couple of these back from Japan. I'd not even known this is my beastly NND mail shower that's now swimming around at Koi Wholesale. It actually won a first prize at the Nagaoka show. I'd not a single idea it had done that. And then not too shabby little Shiro as well that's swimming around with that one.
Yeah.
It's always nice to get a few of them. So, right. Anyway, let's see what questions we've got, folks. Where do you guys stand on taking your pond covers off yet? Joe?
I've taken mine off now. I just couldn't wait any longer. Yeah, I just think you've got to enjoy it. You only live once. Get them off. Enjoy your fish.
Absolutely. What about you, Lee? Because you've covered around the pond.
Yeah, it's pretty much Tafaguchi Koi House. Yeah, it's working really well. I'm in no rush to take the covers off because at the moment I'm running 24 degrees, so it's costing me an arm and a leg as it is. So I'll just leave it happily for probably at least another 4 weeks. Fish are happy. There's no problems in it. Just forget about it until the heat actually does appear over the horizon.
Yeah, fair play. Krafty?
Not covered.
Christ.
But if you have a look at the weather, we're due for the heat to start ramping up to about 17 within about 5 or 6 days in the middle.
Oh
You've
my
said it
God.
now. You've said it now. That's not happening now. You've said it
I
online.
will say it, mate. I read it on the news.
Oh.
Well, the news never lies.
What about you, Al? Do you heat in winter? Where you at? Do you cover? Is it in a really posh conservatory?
No, I heat out all the time, but I never cover my pond ever. Never have. I've never believed in it. I always think you create more problems if you have polycarb lying flat on top of your pond. So I've never done it.
Got to completely agree with you on that one. I know it's tough because heating is it's killer, but I agree with you on that one. When I had my heating system installed, obviously they were in the greenhouse, but we instantly went to cover the surface of the ponds just to stop all the condensation. And again, just, try and make it more efficient, but you just lose so much, The biggest thing, me walking up and down there as I do in the day, there's so much I'll just catch out the corner of my eye walking around. And the minute it's covered, I lose that because the minute you pull the cover back, you don't naturally see how the fish are behaving, and we can't see what's happening under the part of the pond that's still covered. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's unfortunately one of them compromises that a lot do have to make.
I use the pond balls. They're like children's play balls type thing. It's in playpens. And the one way I know I'm gauging fish, I chuck some pellets on, and if all balls go flying, then they're all right then, because they just absolutely love crashing through them balls. So as an alternative of poly sheets, they're a good alternative, I'd say.
Absolutely. So here's a good one. Oh, sorry, that's Steve in background firing in front of me. Right, here we go. Where's all the women koi keepers, guys? This is a good question because I've been spending quite a lot of time in my YouTube analytics at the moment, and I believe we are over 95% male in the viewers. Quite staggering. So, yeah, where are all the women koi keepers? Any of you lot really know any?
I know of a few of my subs that comment regularly. That are, we've got the great Shirley Gibson, love of my life. She does. But maybe it's just it attracts the male more than, I suppose, whippet coursing has probably got more males than females doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. I think it's just a hobby that is maybe just more appealing to men. Same as Technic Lego. Do you know what I mean? There we are. We've got Susie. she comments quite often. There's quite a few females that
We are
actually keep
seeing
koi.
quite a few regulars at the live
Yeah,
auctions as
Lou,
well.
you know what I mean? You know, there is a lot.
Overall, the percentage is crazy low, isn't it? And I don't know if it's something, you're right, say it just might not be that appealing. I've got no idea what it is.
Yeah, but the ladies I do know of that's got channels and all, they do probably a better job at keeping koi than men, you know, because I think they're a bit more diligent sometimes when it comes to doing things, and then multitasking. They can feed and do water checks at the same time. So
Brilliant.
good.
Oh yeah, and I'll sort of fire that back one to all the women that are watching this evening. Let us know in the comments. You know, why do you think, or what could we all do to make it more appealing for more women to get involved? I know a lot of blokes do like to keep their wives at arm's length with it because you know, all these koi that look like they're worth thousands, but they've only ever paid £100 for.
That is probably the reason. That is the reason.
Won't get too clear. I've certainly had to write some dodgy receipts in the past. Absolutely brilliant. It is. Right.
Quite a lot of females through the shop, though, Rick. To be honest.
You're sorry.
There's quite a few females through the shop buying koi. You know, quite regularly. To be fair, you know, which I actually I was quite taken back by how many do come in looking at the koi and how many walk out with a bag of them. So
nice,
quite nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I want it to be the hobby to be as all inclusive as possible. You know, kids, women. It is a great hobby for everyone. But yeah, curious to know other our viewers' thoughts on that one. Right, let's go on, mate.
Probably another reason is that women are actually the backbone of a family. And I don't think people realize how time consuming it would be to be a woman. Where us men just feed and go and play with stuff. Women actually work 24 hours. Do you know what I mean? So that's probably, they don't have enough downtime to be able to have a time consuming hobby like the average hairy backed male, you know?
I'd give her that one, and big shout out to my wife as well, because I'd probably get a lot fewer centimeters on them fish at work if it weren't for her allowing me the time to do it.
Got to put that Colin Holland comment up, Rick.
So I'm not.
I'd love to see Al with a 1 meter jumbo. That's got to be the next.
Oh God!
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to leave that one with you, Lee. We'll let you organise that one, buddy.
Well, I've got a funny feeling with Krafty in there, that's probably going to turn that 5% of women off the hobby.
You should know, buddy. You've spent a lot of time with him quite intimately recently.
Wow, you know.
Brilliant. Right, anyway, let me just get some concentration back.
I think my wife, she gets involved with feeding the koi and stuff. But when you start out the hobby and you've got to clean out multi-bays and stuff like that, that's where I think I lost her interest. And she likes to come out and feed the fish, but yeah, the other stuff where you get your hands dirty, it's not as much a thing for her. But one I guess. One example.
No, it's quite possible. Right, Simon Coypon, has koi keeping as a hobby increased in the last few years by YouTubers? I think, guys, what do we think, Al? You've been quiet. Come on.
No, I don't think it has. The hobby has decreased over the years, and it seems to have plateaued out now, and we seem to have a steady, new people coming into the hobby, which we've always had. I think it's just a progression over the years. I'm not seeing YouTubers making a great deal of difference. I'm trying not to be controversial.
Go for it, Al. Come on.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with YouTubers putting things on the web, provided the information they give is correct. we all have a duty of care to our fish, and to show your fish dying is not a duty of care. So I think people need to sit back a little bit and just have a look at what they're posting. Be careful what you post. We all have a duty of care to any animal. A fish is just the same. And to then, for want of a really bad description, glorify you've lost X number of fish is not good to put on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think you need to carefully assess what's gone wrong, not put it on YouTube.
I was actually going to ask that. Who is clicking? Is it Joe or is it Al?
What is? So YouTube has its place, but I just would love them to be more diligent in what they post and try and educate people properly. Not the downside of the hobby. All people lose fish, without a doubt. I've lost fish myself before, but I'm not glorified by putting it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think people need to stand back and think, really, should I be putting this on? Is that showing me in a bad light? Am I not capable of looking after fish? I know I'll get some crap for what I'm saying, but it's just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, it bothers me in that spot. I mean, the hobby growing, I think the hobby has actually organically grown thanks to COVID. There was undeniable that ours has got the statistics that how many new ponds were created during lockdowns. So we sort of had that, but my concern actually ties in directly to yours, Al, to be honest, in that the reason I sort of fired up getting on YouTube and becoming more vocal was because I was worried looking what was out there generally for people and with the magazine for people to turn to who were new coming into the hobby. Because if they weren't fortunate enough to tag on to a really good dealer who would help them through, we're left in a situation whereby those people could very quickly leave the hobby. And I just felt like YouTube was growing and people were filling the space, but what they were filling the space with alarmed me a great deal. And we say this in the presence of two YouTubers. And obviously Lee, I've always loved what Lee's done, to be fair. That's why he's here sat with us, because he's just documented his hobby and his first-hand experiences, and I believe he's very careful in what he puts forward. And Krafty the same. The ones that really bother me is when, and we know there's certainly a couple out there at the minute, when it's become too commercialized. So we've got people from a commercial background exploiting YouTube with absolute bullshit knowledge and advice that will steer anybody down the wrong path. It's just all very self-serving. And then people with not enough experience giving advice. It's all right documenting an experience, but giving advice in koi is there's so many dimensions to it. Something I became very mindful of in the early days of working in the shop, in that, you know, we can have one thing that works for you as a koi keeper, but there's far too many variables in all the other aspects in everybody else's pond for it just to be blanket advice and work exactly the same way. So it's an interesting one. Krafty, where do you stand on it?
I disagree with Alan on has YouTube increased the hobby. Not necessarily on the show scene, but I think just from the comments that I get back, I don't know about Lee, but the comments I get back, I have certainly ignited a spark to some people in building a pond or changing something in a pond or even buying more koi, etc. You know, I don't know why, but you have that sort of link to people that sort of subscribe to your channel, etc. And I agree that COVID definitely did increase the amount of ponds that we've got. And actually, Stu from Surrey Koi makes a good point, which is now they're closing down to the energy issues. However, that's only going to be short term. I'm from the energy industry, and I really think that at the end of the summer, you may start seeing those prices start cracking down. So hopefully those people that have closed down will reignite the hobby again at that point. But it's up to us to keep the platforms working in order to keep the interest afloat. And even if some people do close down, there's plenty of others. I had 3 people in the shop today come in asking for advice on building koi ponds or extending pond builds as well. So it's there, and there are new people looking at getting into the hobby as well.
Yeah, nice. What about you, Lee? Where was what made you get into YouTube really?
I specifically got into YouTube to document myself for my son, because when I'm long gone, he's got something to watch me talking rubbish about scales and peduncles. Because I know my father kept koi, and I've got 2 pictures of him to my name, and that's it. You know what I mean? And I would love to be able to look back at my father doing what I'm doing. That's pretty much the main reason I done it. And from there, it's actually turned into a bit of a passion to actually help people. And what Krafty's saying is absolutely right. I literally get dozens and dozens of people contacting me on Messenger, asking me, what do I need to build this pond? How can I upgrade my filter because I'm getting problems? So I think, I don't know how popular the koi hobby was 2 years ago. I don't know if it's progressed at all, because I'm just stuck in my little bubble. What I'm doing, I don't really know. I'm on my spur of the hobby. But the amount of people that contact me about advice to build ponds, not that I'm no expert at all, dictates to me that actually probably YouTubers are making a difference, because if only 1 out of 12 people actually do make a pond, then from my channel, I've had a few dozen people make a pond last year, if you know what I mean. So, and going what Alan's saying about I think some channels, does appear to almost be an episode of Koi ER, and I understand that. And it's obviously, they want to put some content out, and that's relevant to them. They're just documenting what they're doing. And it's quite unsightly sometimes to see the state of koi and inhumane. I do agree with that. It's very difficult to watch. It's upsetting. And maybe some of it should be muted back a little bit. But, that's everyone's journey, isn't it, at the end of the day? Whether it's bad koi keeping or just a genuine bad luck. Because, obviously I was down in my friend's pond last week, and there was a koi there with a swim bladder problem, and we had to put it to sleep. It's been on the floor for 5 months. I wasn't actually going to put that on the video, but Lee Koi is a very experienced hobbyist, and he goes, "You actually should put that on the video, because that is the bad side of the hobby." It wasn't down to neglect or miscare of the koi. It was literally an internal issue, and it, unfortunately, it happened. But
But I think what I was saying, what you've done in your video with regards to that large fish having to be put out its misery is a little bit different to bad practice.
Oh yeah. No, I know. That's why I mentioned that. Yeah.
To me, if you're using bad practice and you're causing harm to your fish, it shouldn't be documented for other people to then practice bad practice and not get the right things out of the hobby. I sort of see where both sides of that come from, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
it's difficult.
Really good comment here, actually, from Paul that made me chuckle. But get Al back in as well. Biggest source of bullshit is not YouTube, but Facebook groups makes Putin's spokesperson seem reliable. And I'm completely with him on that one, because all I see in a lot of them groups is just egos clashing, that their advice is the best advice, the right advice, and to me they're just too toxic. But yeah, I think YouTube's improved things. And what about you? I mean, getting into it, Joe, has it been a handy tool for you?
I really can say both ways, to be honest. When I started, I found it quite demoralizing watching some of the ones that I did right at the very beginning, because
Okay.
it did make me feel a little bit inadequate with what setup I had. Some
Okay.
people kind of saying you need to run this, you need to have that, you need to have this, and if you don't, you're not going to be able to do it. I thought, bloody hell, am I ever going to be able to do this? But I always, when you ask me about YouTube, the first video that ever popped up on my feed that really made my whole koi trajectory change, there's a video called "What Is It Like to Buy Koi in Japan?" You might have seen it from Sacramento Koi in America.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's like the David
Koi.
Attenborough. Yeah, the David Attenborough of koi. I just sat there for an hour. I was just like, oh my God, this whole world in Japan that I have not explored. And he really just, seemed like a really down to earth guy. And stuff like I watched Lee's first videos, and when he was talking about his life before koi, and I just thought, it's not all about going out and having RO systems and all the best, whatever it is. There's other people out there that are just like me, normal people, just want to buy amazing koi from Japan and enjoy it. And it can work both ways. I think some people, if they get onto the bad side of YouTube, it'll probably put them off the hobby forever. Or you've just got to find the right videos, click the right ones.
Yeah, that's what me and Chris, to be honest, with the whole koi talk thing, was we just wanted to make something that made every koi keeper feel like what they were doing or was good enough, and just help everyone to be as successful as possible in the hobby. Because you're right, that was always the worry, that you can go even to some koi shops and whatnot. It's, right, I want to build a koi pond. Well, you're going to need 10 grand to do that. And instantly, bang, we've lost somebody there when it's not the reality. We've spoke about pressure filters earlier in this, and liner-based ponds and that kind of setup. I used to sell lots of setups like that to first-time koi keepers in a shop. They come in having built a pond that weekend, dug a hole, took a liner, a pump, a combined box filter, and away we go. You can keep koi with that kind of setup on a very basic level, and that's what everybody needs to know. And where you go from there, we don't know. But, for 500 quid, people had a pond going, and away we go. So, interesting stuff. Right, folks.
I've seen an improvement in this year. I've done a few talks to different koi clubs, and the koi club scene seems to have improved again. They've seemed to have more members joining, new members join, which is a really positive thing. Because for years I've done talks at clubs and there'd be 10, 15 people. This year it's been 30, 40 people at these events.
Yeah.
So there's an upsurge in the koi clubs as well, which is great to see.
I think that you've just inspired me there. Or that might be the topic of next week's discussion. So that could be a good one, I think. But anyway, we've chewed up well over an hour. Just want to take this time to thank all of you guys for joining me once again, and for everybody who's tuned in. Just about 250 viewers again at our peak there, which is absolutely phenomenal. Appreciate that a great deal. And all we'd like back from you guys is, if you can, please subscribe to those channels wherever you're watching it. Hit like, share the videos if you're watching out on Facebook, just so what we're doing can reach as many people as possible. But we'll be back next week. And again, thanks to everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys.